welcome to all my colleague ministers. Must be one of the first times that I am sharing a stage with 5 very beautiful women, ministers from all over the world. And by the way, we are only 4 of us, so we are in a minority. But wonderful to have Excellencies Miss Everly, Excellencies Miss Celinda, Miss Claudia, Miss Maria, Miss Ursula, and Miss Koromoto, who have joined us this evening. A warm welcome also to my colleague ministers, Mr. Everly, Mr. Jorge, Mr. Julio, Mr. No, I'm the only 4th guy. That's what makes 9 of us. By the way, 9 is considered a very good number in India. Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, Chandrajit, for putting together this wonderful 10th CII India LAC Conclave. And friends, I was just going through the program, the entire 2-day engagement, and the number of very significant subjects that have been covered with 15 ministers from the LAC region attending, over 23 countries participating, with probably 185 international delegates and 210 Indian delegates. I think we've really arrived as an engagement between the LAC countries and India. This program clearly demonstrates the importance that India and all our friendly countries in Latin America and Caribbean place to this valuable relationship. It's an excellent platform, an enduring engagement, and will surely lead to deeper economic and trade relations between India and the LAC region. It's pretty late in the evening. I won't take too long. But the bridge that is sought to be created between the Indian subcontinent and the Latin American region, and as some of my previous speakers spoke, is not only about business. It's a lot to do with the people-to-people connect. There's a lot of cultural element, tradition that we share, culinary delights, as was mentioned. And I'm very sure that this shared history, which binds our 2 regions together, the sporting spirit, the way we celebrate our festivals, the enthusiasm, the passion with which we protect our cultures, our traditions, that brings us closer together. And on the strength of this pillar, we can look at expanding our business and economic ties going forward. In fact, if you go to Goa or if you go to Daman and Diu, you will see so much of Portuguese heritage embedded in parts of India, just like it is in your country, some of your countries. The architecture, the vibrancy of the people living there. Of course, we can't beat you at football with Maradona and Messi right up front. But I don't think you can touch us in cricket with Virat Kohli and Tendulkar holding the fort, or Rohit Sharma, who incidentally, Chandrajit, comes from my constituency originally in Mumbai. I'm grateful to some of our friends from the LAC region, particularly the Dominican Republic, Guyana and Barbados, for conferring their highest civilian honor to Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, which in a way symbolizes the enduring trust and mutual respect between the countries of the LAC region and India. Many of the speakers before me spoke about the uncertainties, the volatility that we are experiencing in world trade today. Our partnership can actually overcome these uncertainties if we are able to work in a spirit of friendship, in a spirit of cooperation, because both our regions, most of the countries of the Latin American and Caribbean areas and India have very similar histories, have very similar situation, even the problems are pretty much similar. And yet we can complement each other, we can support each other. Given the challenges of climate change, even agriculture need not always be a competition between us. There could be times we could be supplementing each other for our food security requirements. We look up to you a lot for our energy security, just as we offer you healthcare security. And therefore, I would like to propose that we empower our officials, empower our teams, empower our business persons to think big. We are all from the global south. We have already created very good relationships amongst the 100-odd nations of the global south, half of whom come from your region. And therefore, we truly have an opportunity not only to look at expanding our trade, our investments, maybe doubling it in the next 5 years could be one tangible target that we start with. We can't rest on the laurel of the 45, 48 billion bilateral trade that we have been able to achieve over so many years. While it is commendable, and I would not like to take it away from all of those business persons from all the region and from India who have achieved this level of trade. And I compliment all of you for it. But it's truly a story of a half-full glass. Whether we want to be satisfied with 48, 50 billion, or we now look at it as a quarter-full glass and can look at whether we can make it 100, whether we can make it 200 in a time frame, not necessarily with an open-ended agenda. And therefore, taking a cue from some of the suggestions that my colleague ministers have offered us today, whether it's the engineering sector, whether it's healthcare, whether it's energy, whether it's renewable energy, clean energy, the critical minerals partnerships that some of us can enter into, the opportunity that comes out from services sector, from tourism sector, from exotic fruits and vegetables and horticulture, different palates, different cuisines, different tastes, hospitality, gems and jewelry, an emerging sector, particularly with lab-grown diamonds, with very artistically made handicrafts and handlooms that many of your countries are equally proud to present as our Indian artisans. There's so much and more that we can together work on, and given this background and in the background of the 8 illustrious ministers who have spoken before me, I would like to offer a few suggestions for greater economic integration of our economies, expanding our partnerships. I'll take a cue from my Chile and Peru colleagues who have talked about free trade agreements also. First, let us see what we can do to expand our preferential trade between the two regions. We have a Mercosur agreement, but I've been studying the files, I've been looking at the extent of preference or the extent of areas of cooperation. It's pretty small. And whenever I looked at or talked to any of the partner countries from the Mercosur region, I think we are having too much difficulty in having a breakthrough to expand this relationship. Some of it could be with the internal problems within the Mercosur also. I hope we can talk frankly so that we can come to some tangible way forward in the future. And therefore, I propose either the Mercosur region decides if they want to expand the preferential trade agreement, or we can look at doing it bilaterally. That happened with the GCC. We were not making much headway. UAE came forward. We've closed our negotiations and entered into the world's fastest ever negotiated free trade agreement between UAE and India. Another one is on its way. Two more are waiting in the wings. And ultimately, we are entering into bilateral agreements which will help trade grow. In fact, only a couple of days back, my ambassador from the UAE reported that this year we would probably go up to $90 billion, which is twice of what we had when we executed the free trade agreement barely 3 years ago. We've almost doubled our trade in 3 years post the free trade agreement. And it's a two-way doubling. Both have benefited. Similarly, we've been talking about a free trade agreement with Peru for a very, very long time. I think we need to make up our mind where we want to get there. Agreements which are negotiated over 10 and 15 and 20 rounds, agreements which are long drawn, agreements which are negotiated over an engagement once in 6 months or 12 months, can never get fructified into solid partnerships. Because by the time you are on your 10th round, you've lost track of what you did on the first or second round. And therefore, I would urge that we must make up our mind. Either we do it fast, or we agree to continue to trade the way we are, and let's see what we can do best within our existing arrangements. We are exploring working with Chile to expand the PTA and probably convert it into an FTA. We've had some dialogue with each other. I was seeing the PTA was first entered into in 2006 and expanded in 2017 from 178 lines to probably 1,000 lines or so. And likewise on the Chile side from 296 to 1,800 lines. After that, we have just been negotiating. We are now looking at seeing whether we can make it a comprehensive economic partnership. We also have institutional mechanisms with Costa Rica, with Ecuador, with Dominican Republic, with Colombia, with Argentina, with Brazil, which are more in the nature of trying to sort out non-tariff barriers, trying to sort out problems that our industry faces. Even there, I feel a lot of scope to reduce the non-tariff barriers, as some of the ministers mentioned, and trying to see if we can make it easier to do business. Some ministers touched upon a neighboring country of India. One of our concerns when we are negotiating trade agreements with the LAC region is the significant presence of non-market economies in your region. And therefore, any agreements that we are looking at will also have to address how we will ensure that non-market economies do not make your region as a route to come to India. And if we can agree to respect each other's sensitivities, I think we can start looking at ways and means to expand our trade faster, more efficiently, and for the mutual benefit of the people and businesses of your countries and India. Of course, there are certain areas which I would like to offer as a second point. Renewable energy could be one area of significant collaboration. Almost 40% of the lithium reserves of the world are housed in the LAC countries. Rather than just using them as raw material, India would like to partner with you to process them jointly. We can have our businesses work with your businesses towards lithium processing, battery manufacturing, and maybe then onward unto electric mobility to contribute towards climate change problems. Already India and Brazil are working together on biofuels in significant measure. Of course, there's scope for much more to do together. We want to learn about flexi engines. We want to work together to see whether we can have 100% ethanol-powered vehicles running on the roads of India, bringing down our carbon emissions. So significant steps on sustainability is the second point that I would like to offer. Third, I think agricultural and food security of some of the countries in that region. While many of us have large tracts of land which are engaged in agriculture, we also have certain products where there are shortages. And together we can support each other, we can complement each other's food security requirements, we can support you through investments in post-harvest storage, cold chain logistics. Climate resilient agriculture can be an area of collaboration. We can work together to see if we can process and value add the agricultural produce of each country. And going forward, I think more and more of the world is looking towards ready-to-eat mixes and ready-to-eat products where we can work together to support our economies, create jobs, and create value addition to support our GDPs. On the fourth point, somebody had mentioned about direct air connectivity. Apart from air connectivity, even shipping routes need to be expanded between the LAC region and India. And maybe we can tie up with some of the reputed shipping companies. But if we wish to expand our engagement, I think a critical element will certainly be trade facilitation, infrastructure upgradation, streamlining market access, reducing logistical bottlenecks, simplifying regulatory frameworks, establishing direct trade routes through shipping and air connectivity, digitizing customs procedures so that overall trade efficiency can be smarter and better between the LAC region and India, which will ultimately help you in your internal trade with each other also. Lastly, I think sectoral diversification is crucial so that we can move beyond the traditional areas of trade that have kept us engaged all these years. High-end manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, digital engagement, digital public infrastructure, which we are offering to many other countries, artificial intelligence, all of these are necessary towards building a future-ready country, a future-ready business environment, and therefore strengthening of institutional frameworks will be very essential, along with removal of non-tariff barriers and entering into robust trade agreements. Friends, the opportunities are abundant, but challenges remain. The global economic slowdown, softening of international trade, declining commodity prices, supply chain disruptions, fluctuating foreign direct investment are all a reality. Within that, India stands committed to advance the transformation of our relationships. Our partnerships with the LAC countries is dynamic, is strong, is strategic, and also mutually beneficial. I do believe governments, businesses, and institutions must seize the moment to leverage new opportunities and build resilient economic partnerships. The time for incremental progress is over, friends. It's time we started looking at significant forward movement. It's time we started looking at a new phase of development of our relationship where we take transformational steps forward so that we can build a future of thriving trade, expanding investments, and collaborations. All of this rooted in trust. If we can trust each other, if we can work towards the long-term prosperity of your region and India together, I think we have a historic opportunity to redefine the engagement between the Latin American and Caribbean countries and India. This engagement need not only be bilateral. Even at multilateral fora, I often find at the WTO and various other organizations or UN-backed organizations, our world is divided when we have to engage with the developed countries. Very often, the developed countries are also successful in weaning away our cooperation, in breaking our cooperation through various ingenious methods. I can recount many. For example, at the WTO in the fisheries negotiation, they were able to break our partnership through small SOPs and small freebies, or in a way defining the world in such a manner that they could break the cooperation that the global south usually is able to demonstrate. And I would like you to take back a message to your countries that if we don't stand for each other, ultimately we will all suffer. There may be a time when you may need India's help and you may find us wanting when we find other friends from the global south not standing up with India on areas of India's interest. You may find there are many areas where we have become wiser over the years, where we were discriminated when we were a less developed country, but we've become wiser today and are today fighting for the shared prosperity of the global south, but find ourselves as a divided house. I would urge you to take back this message to your countries that unless we all stand together for the good of the entire global south, for the good of all emerging economies, for the good of the less developed countries and their progress and prosperity, and work as a team, I think we will all lose out on the great opportunity that lies before us, technology-driven and sustainable economic partnership between the LAC and India region can create jobs, can foster innovation, can enhance our competitiveness when we work with the rest of the world. But we clearly need to stay together. We need to work together. And I see this conference, this conclave, as an opportunity to define ideas into actionable strategies, identify new growth sectors, and build enduring partnerships in trade, in investment, and for global good. The next decade, friends, of our engagement can be characterized by a new age, by a new dynamism, and I invite all of you to be a part of this dynamic relationship towards the shared prosperity of our two regions. Let us together unlock the full potential of our economic partnership. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I'd now like to request you to hand over a token of appreciation to all our visiting guests, eminent guests who are here on the dais. And it is by name, sir, so you will have to give it to the person it belongs to. We start with Ms. Claudia Sanhuza Riveros from Republic of Chile. Yes, the claps, applause should keep coming. To His Excellency, Dr. Jorge Morales Polino from the Dominican Republic. His Excellency, Mr. Julio Eduardo Orozco Perez from Guatemala. Honorable Mr. Everly Paul Shet Green from Antigua and Barbuda. Her Excellency, Ms. Celinda Sosa Lunda from the state of Bolivia. Her Excellency, Ms. Maria Luisa Haim Breve from El Salvador. Her Excellency, Mrs. Ursula Desilu Leon Champagne from the Republic of Peru. And finally, Her Excellency, Ms. Coromoto Godoy Calderon from the Republic of Venezuela. May I request all of you to please step forward for a photo opportunity, please. And finally, a loud round of applause for all our guests this evening. With that, we come to a close of this day's sessions, and I invite all of you to join us for dinner right here. For the ministers, we have another arrangement, and our speakers, we have another arrangement, but for the rest of the delegates and everyone else, we have dinner right here. And please enjoy your dinner and see you all tomorrow for the